Well, hello, everyone. My name is Darren Roblyer. I'm an associate professor in biomedical engineering. Just want to say thank you for the opportunity to talk today, and congratulations to Jerome on his Innovator of the Year. And I'm also excited to tell you a little bit about some of the steps we've been taking towards commercialization for a project in the lab related to an optical wearable probe for chemotherapy monitoring for breast cancer patients. Next slide, please. So here's the big picture for a certain segment of breast cancer patients. They're given chemotherapy, and for patients like you won't see on the right, this can work very well, where you see a tumor in that MRI before chemo and it's gone after. But other patients, like patient number 2, that tumor is there even after months of chemotherapy. And we don't always have the answer of why there's such variation in treatment response, but there's a technological need for better methods to track these patients and identify response early. So we've been working in academia to develop optical technologies to track these patients over time to identify early optical signatures of response or resistance. Next slide, please. So in addition to the academic studies and tech development, we're also thinking about commercialization now. And we've just taken the first few steps towards commercialization. So we've had an Ignition pilot award and a BBIC pilot award. That's an accelerator. It's funded by the NIH here in Boston. And the American Cancer Society has been a big supporter of ours as well. So for the last 5 years, they've supported us on the academic side. We were the first lab in the country to be funded by what they call their Mission Boost program. This is a program to help academic investigators commercialize discoveries or technologies. And as part of that, we've worked with an accelerator down in Atlanta for over a year. And it's really been a crash course in entrepreneurship, FDA, regulatory issues, how do you submit paperwork to the FDA, working with investors and much else. So it's really been quite eye-opening. And all this is related to one of my personal goals, is to have my scientific work here be used somehow positively affect patient care during my lifetime, which in some sense is a fairly big order. But the technologies we work on, you see an example of the one at the bottom right. This is a wearable probe that doesn't need contrast agents. So we measure patients now at BMC in clinical studies. So since we're so close to the patient already, my hope is that we have a chance to affect patient care sooner rather than later. Next slide, please. So as part of these first few steps and dealing with other entrepreneurs, potential investors, and pitching the idea, I've learned that there's just different language and skill sets to communicate with some of these types of people. And what I mean by that is, at least at early stage, and I can only speak for myself, but at early stage, investor may be less skeptical that your technology works and much more interested in ideas like you see in the second bullet point. So what's the market size? What's the customer need? Are you really addressing it with your technology? What's your business plan and timeline? What does regulatory approval look like? And I'll just say a word about innovation, because I had a discussion with Ron about this. So I like to think about innovation a lot, but I think it's also a slippery term, means different things to different people. And I think it often has different meanings in academia versus industry. Whereas in academia, sometimes I get the impression it's closer to clever and commercialization is closer to impact. But there's a lot to unpack there. Next slide, please. So what I've learned, many things so far, but one important and difficult lesson is that good scientific ideas are often decoupled from market needs, right? So one of the downstream effects of this are you could potentially have a illustrative academic career that has very little impact in the broader world or in the commercialization space. What would I like to say to BU? Maybe just the obvious thought here that the current currency of academia are things like citations, grants, academic leadership. But if we want to increase commercialization at BU or interaction with industry, incentives that link that academic prestige to commercialization would help. And to me, commercialization is really implicit in this idea of the societal engineer, which we think about in the engineering school. So next step for us, always more data. We're conducting clinical studies right now at BMC, and then external funding. So thanks again for the opportunity. Thanks, everyone.